Umalusi has approved the writing of matric exams for public and private schools. It assessed the readiness to handle the large numbers expected to write the final exam. But Umalusi is concerned about online schools. It says more needs to be done to ensure that online is in line with regulations. Now, let's discuss this with Umalusi's Lucky Ditaunyane. Now, of course, Mr. Lucky, it's all systems go for end-of-year exams after the year we had, though. How ready are schools for the matric exams?
Well, Barron, thanks, and thanks for having me. Good morning to all the viewers. We are as good as we are as ready can be in terms of the state of readiness of the system, considering what has happened not just this year but also last year with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, this year I must say that all the assessment bodies have really put some effort into making sure that they obviate some of the challenges that we experienced last year with COVID-19 by putting systems in place that will make sure that we have a seamless process of conducting, administering, and managing the oncoming final examinations. Now, this year, obviously, we've had several times when schools had to be closed because of lockdown regulations. And as a result of that, Umalusi is fully aware of the impact of COVID-19 on the learners, especially with the time lost regarding teaching and learning. However, we are also aware that schools have really tried their best to make up for the lost time. So generally, we are happy with the different aspects of organizing examinations that have been put in place by assessment bodies. Things like, for example, the management of exams, registration of candidates, and the management of school-based assessment, printing, packaging, and distribution of question papers, the conduct of exams. So a lot of thinking has gone into the whole organization of the exams, because you'll remember that it's one of the major undertakings annually for the Department of Basic Education in particular. So it's a big project that comes every year for all the assessment bodies.
Now, let's go to online schools. How ready are they for the upcoming exams, as many of them also operate unregulated, like you mentioned previously?
Yeah, as you rightly said, online schools remain an unregulated sector in South Africa, specifically looking at basic education. And the reason for that is that we don't have any legislation in place to guide the operations of online schools. And that process is underway as I speak, to craft regulations to make sure that when parents take their children to register at online schools, that there can be, a sense of credibility in terms of the online schools that are operating in the country. The position that we have taken as Umalusi is that we encourage the establishment of online schools. However, it is important as a quality council that we caution parents that in the passage of time, all online schools will have to be legally accredited by Umalusi for them to operate, especially for them to offer the National Senior Certificate qualification. So it's important, therefore, that all the schools that are currently operating as online schools must work in collaboration with the Department of Basic Education and Umalusi to make sure that they comply with all the requirements. It will take a bit of time because it is work in progress, but we believe that if we all work together, we will be able to regulate the sector.
Now, of course, Lucky, there is this dark cloud still hanging over the matric exams from last year. It's been confirmed that the report of a probe by the National Investigation Task Team into last year's question paper leaks has not yet been handed to Umalusi. So basically the matter remains unresolved. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, what is the holdup with the investigation, and how sure are you that something like this won't happen again this year?
Well, what we have said as Umalusi is that we will give the Department of Basic Education adequate space to still conduct the investigation into the paper leakages of the 2020 national examinations. Having said that, we have received a report from the Department of Basic Education informing us, as Umalusi, that they have submitted the final investigation report to the minister for her consideration and approval. And it's only after the minister would have engaged with the report that she will submit it to Umalusi Council for further engagement. So we want to allow the department to do its own to go through its own internal processes before they can submit to us. Now, I'm sure you would have observed that earlier this year, there was some progress around the investigation in terms of people being arrested and so on, even though I cannot go into the details, because I'm sure all of that is covered in the DBE's report. Now, about your second question, what can be done to obviate this from happening in the future? Well, it is actually not as easy as saying we have done 1, 2, and 3, because yes, the systems are in place. Yes, the security measures have been put in place. They are tight. As Umalusi, we have checked all the assessment bodies. We have gone to all the provinces, and we are happy with the systems that are in place. But remember that there is also the human element of people who work within the examination management space. And, unfortunately, while the majority of officials might be people who are people of integrity, we do find from time to time that there will be people who compromise systems from internally, which is unfortunate. But, when you look at the systems themselves, yes, everything has been done to make sure that they are strengthened and to make sure that the integrity of the examination is not compromised.
All right. Now, you also confirmed that over 41,500 markers had been appointed for this year's matric exams. But up until a few weeks ago, there was a shortage of a number of markers in the Northern Cape, the Northwest and the Western Cape. Now, has this issue since been resolved?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that we regard as work in progress, because surely by the time the learners start writing, the appointment of markers across assessment bodies is something that should be resolved. Now, usually we report as at the time of the audit. So you find that at the time of the audit, the assessment bodies are still in the process of appointing markers. So that is why we actually never make it a big issue if we know that the process is still ongoing. And secondly, it is also very important to remember that the process of marking requires teachers to apply for marking. And it is a voluntary thing. No one is forced to go and mark grade 12 scripts. So as a result of that, you find that some teachers decide, no, this year I'm not going to mark. So that creates a bit of a shortage in some of the subjects, and that is what the assessment bodies have to tussle with from time to time.
Thank you so much. That, of course, that's all we have time for this morning. But thank you so much for engaging with us this morning, Mr. Lucky Ditaunyane, of course, joining us here from Umalusi this morning. Now, still